All right, everybody. Welcome to Carbonite Bounty BS, the show where we are going to talk about The Mandalorian, the Disney Plus series. We're the nerds, and this is the episode for Chapter 12, which is The Siege. The Siege. How's everybody doing tonight?
What up? What up?
What's going on?
Hey, how you
How's
doing?
everyone doing? Kendo, you're looking good tonight. Very shiny armor. You're looking nice.
Kendo.
DP was complimenting on his armor. Trenton, the twin sunsets of Tatooine have never looked so beautiful. As they look in the frame of the background of your humble moisture farm. So we're so glad you guys could join us as usual here. This is the time now that we've said hello, where I'm going to kick it over to my main man, Dog Pound Brown. He's going to tell you where to find us if you haven't been turned off already.
Nerdcyclopedia.com. Make sure that you guys are going there. You see all our links and everything that involved with Nerdcyclopedia. At Nerdcyclopedia, we're on Twitter, we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram. Anywhere, we're all over social media. We are there at Nerdcyclopedia. If you're watching us on YouTube or on Facebook, make sure that you're clicking that notification and also subscribing. So anytime that you know that we're on, anytime that we're on, you know that we're on.
That's right.
Also,
That's right.
And make sure that you guys are listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast, iHeartRadio, wherever. Tune in. We are there for you to listen to.
That's right. We're all over the place now because it's pretty much free, so it's easy to do that. I want to talk about this episode, and you know, before we kick it over to Trenton for the main meat of the show, which we really appreciate him doing that, and he's doing such a great job. I want to address Carl Weathers, honestly, personally. Just me to Carl. So you guys, hold on a second. You guys are gone. Carl, this is awesome work, and I just want to say that I appreciate that you've brought Carl Weathers to the Star Wars universe, and that is awesome. All right, that is all. Okay, so I've taken advantage of the format once now, and that I control.
Hey,
I control the
he
cameras.
directed the episode, so I mean, you know, props to Carl Weathers.
All right,
great direction.
So thank you to Carl Weathers for deigning to join the Star Wars universe. Always great to have an Apollo Creed in there. All right, Trenton. I'll kick it over to you to start us off.
Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's episode. A lot of stuff. I mean, some of the words we talked about kind of leading up to this was, you know, kind of a wild episode. A lot of us thought it would be a filler episode, anticlimactic, but really, I mean, so much context is going to lead us into the third sequel trilogy, as well as tie in, you know, a lot of prequel trilogy things. So as far as getting into this episode, there's a lot of callbacks, as we discussed, not a lot of plot details necessarily, but definitely there's a lot of fill-in as far as continuing the sequel trilogy legacy, and once again gives us some calls into seeing where this can be headed for season 3 and or other series as potential spin-offs. So without that further ado, we'll start as far as our reaction at the beginning of the episode. We saw Mando and the child. First off, we'll start with DP's favorite thing, which is his parenting skills. I think DP would have created that as far as
my man has
letting a baby.
Oh man, letting a baby fix your shit. Oh, if I can imagine my 2-year-old, you know, just he could fit into the the thing and everything, and just letting him and just trying to describe to him exactly what to do was one of the most hilarious scenes I done seen all, like, you know, with both of these seasons. I mean, pretty much a lot of the things that would happen with the child just had me just rolling. But this, you know, with Mando telling him what to do with the blue wire, what to do with the red wire, and the child actually reacted. Okay, well, this one? Are you sure this one? So, I mean, and just the interaction between the two, and the show is just really showing its sense of humor that Mando can really have like a some levity about him. So just to see his parenting skills just letting him go and actually shock himself in the end as an end result, it's just like, man, you got to give, like, you know, a round of applause for this man's parenting skills. It's just so awesome.
Right. And to lead into that, Kendo, what do you feel about as far as DP kind of alluded to, we're starting to get a little bit of different character development from Din Djarin, or Mando as most call him. He seems to be becoming more, I guess, human, we shall say, but not as tough as nails as he was originally came out, collecting bounties and everything. Well, how do you think about his character development so far?
Well, I think you're right. We're definitely seeing a change. So it started out, he thought this was going to be a pretty simple job, protect the child. But I think he's seeing now that he's needing to get more. He's needing to get help from a lot of different people, and he's not the loner really. He's got to work as a team. And I noticed that every time he has to get into sort of a kind of a team situation, he gets a little uncomfortable. He's sort of like, okay, you guys do this, but I'm going to actually go ahead and do this over here and solve the problem. Right? That's just what it seems to me. Even after this episode, when they got to that Imperial bunker, they were all down trying to slice into the door. Where did he go? He just jetted up, went down. I like the stormtrooper throwing the stormtrooper off the edge there, and then he came down. The elevator was open, and so he's still on his own, but he's having to work as a team. And I think that makes him a little uncomfortable, but I think he's getting a little better at it.
Right. And as we get into the meetup here, I know a lot of us spoke about last week about potentially everybody joining up again and, sort of a team-oriented blast off into the next adventure, but wasn't so much the case. So, Hitch, what do you think about as far as when we meet up with the rest of the cast? And I guess the first part is, the initial bomb drop is the eyes watch as he's asking for his, the Razor Crest to be fixed. Did you feel anything funny about that off the bat, or?
I thought that, coming back to this locale after sort of being tied back into the Tatooine story and being tied back into the sort of the side story with the frog person, really grounds the story in its origination, right? So coming back to Grief and coming back to Kara, it shows us that there are consequences to these actions. That this is a real world where if Mando does X, Y, or Z, there's going to be consequences down the line, and that's something that I think is really, really great. Is that this show is sort of showing consequences in the Star Wars universe, which they don't think about all the time. Like Luke blows up the Death Star, and that's 100 million people on there. You know what I mean? Like things like that don't just come up in the Star Wars universe. And like Kendo was saying. We see a lot in Star Wars that scream at people flying off stuff, but the Mandalorian shows us the dull thud as the body hits the bottom of the valley.
Great point.
And I think that's one thing that's when I talk about the Spirit of 77 or the original Star Wars, that Western rough, dirty thing. And that's where Mandalorian really hits the sweet spot for me. It's doing such a great job of embedding interesting characters with complicated story arcs in multiple locations where you could see how next season of The Mandalorian is just 8 vignettes on 8 separate story arcs now. It's incredible. They could be completely unmoored from any real main plot. They could have their own plots. And that's really the testament to the writing and how they're really pulling in these characters from other avenues, right? From the cartoons and linking them together with this very real world, right? It's anchoring that animation in the quote unquote reality of a galaxy far, far away, and that's something the Mandalorian does really well.
Right. So just as he said, tying that in off the bat, the second portion of this really review will lead into is obviously child is dropped off, as we know. Dan is roped into another adventure, and there's a payment required outside of money that's needed in order to get help. So
let's talk right quick a bit about that child being dropped off, and this guy's parenting skills. Right. So just dropping a child off in a place where you haven't vetted anything. You're just like trusting that Grief knows how they're going to take care of the child and everything. And he's a little hesitant, but he still goes.
Not even a person, a droid actually too, as a teacher.
Yeah, exactly.
Things he absolutely hates.
DV, wouldn't you, if you knew or thought that your child would be left with a substantial babysitter like a droid, wouldn't you do it?
Probably like in a heartbeat. I mean,
Oh, like that. Yeah.
I think any one of us would jump at the opportunity to have a droid babysit some kids we had to babysit, right? I mean, goodness gracious, that lecture, like I know I give, you guys know I give a lot of boring history lectures. That droid was going on and on about the Hydean way and about the Coruscant spine and about the inner rim, and was giving a real geography lesson like it was the front fold of one of the Legends novels. And even I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, yeah, the Hydean way, whatever. So I can imagine how bored any poor children would be that would come into the orbit of a less adventurous C-3PO. I'm more scared.
Well, the child didn't look too bored. He was, he looked a little hungry there.
Yeah.
As soon as he saw some Oreos, some good, like, nice sea blue Oreos, he used his force skills.
Let me ask you. I mean, little frog hops up to you, and you're in 4th grade, and it acts like it wants some of your cookies. You're gonna give it some cookies, right? You're gonna give it the cookies.
Right.
I mean, come on, it's cute. It's cute. It's a baby Yoda. I mean, that's the thing. Like, that's the thing about this show that's hilarious is like none of us have to speculate on why these people are doing these nice things for the child, right? Like, we get it. We love it. Like, we all would be doing exactly the same thing, giving it cookies and stuff, and like wanting to cuddle it and things like that. So we get that, right? It's the same exact thing for them. They treat it the same way we do. It's interesting, right? That's postmodern. Yeah. That's what they call the they call it simulacrum right there. Sort of a thing within a thing within a thing that I don't want to talk about anymore. Throw it back to Trent.
I guess that's my only gripe so far, the character development of the child. I mean, obviously there's little dialogue, but just uncanny use of the Force. To me, it's getting a little
I wanted to say it. I was waiting for someone to say it.
I've let it slide the first season. Now he's starting to force pull things from the eggs. He's starting to manipulate the Force in the air. Like, I understand his race was strong with the Force, but with no training, it just, I mean, is it basically saying humans are inferior? You see how long it took Luke just to, grab an object. How long it took Rey to meditate, but this child is that strong that it automatically knows how to manipulate the Force already. That to me is the only thing I'm just looking at. Like, if it's that advanced, it's just it's just little.
Okay, if I guess if you relate this to real life, everyone can't be Michael Jordan. Some people have to work really hard to get to that point.
Ooh,
so
take that
whereas
take that back. Michael Jordan was a hard worker. I will not allow any slur on Michael Jordan's work ethic to remain on this channel. I cannot allow that.
He did work pretty hard. My bad. I take
that. You can say negative things about Michael Jordan, by the way, just not lies.
Okay. Hashtag hate DP. So I'm right there.
It's a Cleveland thing. It's okay.
I guess my point. Oh, there you go. My point is. The guy was born with the great talent of, just being that the one, if you want to call it. Some people have to work to that point to where they get to that level of skill. Who's to say that in this universe that, everyone just can't start from, the same level? So Luke had to get to a point where he was real adept with the Force. The child just has it. And
don't you need to know how to learn how to have it? I guess that's the thing I've always wondered.
Well, they have to do some explicit explanation because apparently this little child has it.
Well, how old is Luke Skywalker, though? Right?
Well,
I mean, he's 19. He's 19, 20 years old. The thing about this species that I think is interesting is that, like, we see the Mon Calamari and the Quarren, right? And we see these species in their native habitat, right? And we see the Horatio Sands characters out of their native habitat and how that affects what they can do, right? What they're willing to do. The child, and it seems to me like this race is to the Force like a race of bird people would be to flying. You know what I mean? Like, this is just sort of the medium in which they operate because it's a part of their, you want to say biosphere, part of their evolution as a species before sentience, right? We would say, prehistoric times, like how we came from, our prehistoric ancestors that were at one point great apes and became eventually able to nitpick story details in, Star Wars. So at some point there was a conversion, right? We don't know where. I'm not going to speculate on where that was.
We came a long way there.
It's happened. So for these guys, but then for this species, maybe it was that force sensitivity was sort of baked into their planet because of some vergence in the force or something like that. So when they're being preyed on or when they're acting like predators and prey, that would be an evolutionary condition, a pressure on them to develop force sensitivity, especially if they're long-lived. You would imagine to live that long, and obviously, let's be honest about what this species is. Obviously, it's a predator species, right? I mean, he's eating everything that moves. Ugh.
Right.
So, this is something that this is the long-term personal speculation about Yoda that I'm just dropping out here because it's time, right? I have long suspected that Yoda's species has a specific connection to the Force that's peculiar to their evolutionary condition. Yeah. And then later on, I started a Star Wars podcast to say that. And here we are.
That's all fun and games, and I'll leave this up to Kendo. But I believed all that until we dropped that M word again that we haven't heard since Qui-Gon Jinn. It kind of just like was the ultimate curveball off the bat. The M count, as we say. What did you guys think? What did you think of that, Kendo? I mean, I thought the midichlorians were done.
Oh no! I mean, they just evolve, and so the Imperial cloners, those scientists, know there's something to this child, and they've been trying to experiment, and obviously it all failed. Every single experiment they did failed. It was dead, I guess. It didn't work. So I think they're trying to take the midichlorians and clone them and somehow build some sort of a new army out of them, right? I mean, that's what the Empire would do with this.
Yeah, definitely trying to build for the expanded universe the next Star Killer. So essentially a clone of a former Force being, whether it be Luke Skywalker or who knows, a clone of maybe, as we'll get into a little bit later here, maybe a way to preserve Palpatine.
Well, they're mixing some sort of a humanoid, like a shock trooper of some sort, with the DNA from the child, which would be midichlorians. And I always thought the midichlorians were just everybody has them. Right. You have them, I have them.
There's just a level of,
Hitch on a good day has a lot of them. So everybody has them. It's just this particular species had a lot of them, and then every once in a while a human has a lot of them. So it's just chance, or is it the galaxy working in some weird way?
Right.
Who knows? But it didn't shock me that they bring that all back. But I'm super interested in the biological warfare potential here by taking blood from the child and turning it into maybe a robot humanoid cyborg thing. That's right. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I guess to bring this all back into context for the viewers out there, so essentially where we left off at is Mando and the team were basically tasked to take out one of the last, they felt, Empire strongholds on the planet. They had teamed up with his frozen friend again. I forget the character's name, the blue guy, but he had been their transport, and they had had a four-man team lay siege on the final, I guess, Empire forge or foundry that they wanted to get weapons and things like that out. And basically their idea was to destroy it so they can have a free planet. As we're alluding to now, there's a scene as far as when they get inside that they discover that there is not only weapons in here, but a secret cloning facility and project in which we get our kind of first look at of a clone being, whether it is a clone that kind of resembled Snoke as far as an imperfect thing. Everybody in the comments can put their theory if they think it's maybe Palpatine or whatever these beings are, but clearly these are the beginnings of something, and they're alluding to using the blood, as Kendo said, whether it being something we see later in the episode for these troopers, or is it to revitalize or revive somebody that, like I said, we don't know if they're alluding to Palpatine or not. I mean, to this point, all we know is he died on a Death Star. So I don't know how they're tying it together, but I'm really liking the development and some of these little hints. I don't know if they're doing it's kind of like they did with the Marvel series to kind of allow people to navigate for their own idea how they would look at it. But what do you think, Hitch, about some of the ways they're setting this up, especially up until this point? We're seeing the first version of a clone.
Yeah. And a clone is something. It's a word that's dropped in like the first couple of scenes of Star Wars Episode 4. So it's a word that's been playing into Star Wars since the very beginning. And for a long time, it was shrouded in mystery. We didn't know what the heck happened in the Clone Wars or what that even meant. And obviously, we were treated during the prequel era to a real explanation of what that meant. Some people thought it was lame. I thought it was whatever. Now, these cloning facilities are being used to clone Force-sensitive individuals. Now, in the Legends canon, this is a pretty popular thing. One of the jokes kind of in Legends canon is if you clone somebody, their clone, if there's a vowel in their name, they get a double vowel. So, like, my clone would have an apostrophe I next to the I, so it would be like HITCH, right? That would be what you'd call my clone, right? So so this has been a weird sort of thing that's sort of moved around the Star Wars canon for a long time, and with Skywalker, with Episode 9, it's legit, right? We know for a fact cloning factors heavily into the plot of those series, right? We know for a fact that at some point between now and then, Palpatine establishes Snoke as a front and uses it to corrupt Jason Solo, right? Or Ben Solo. Sorry, guys, the Legends canon's up in my head.
Yeah, Jason Solo.
I know,
There we
hate
go.
on Hitch.
Hashtag that.
Hashtag hate Hitch.
Solo plug. I like that.
So I get the Solos confused, right? There's also an Anakin Solo in Legends, just to be really confusing. There's more Solo sons. So we know that is going to happen. So these cloning facilities, look, you guys know what Chekhov's gun is, right? You guys know what that is? You guys ever heard of that before? So
you got to fire.
Exactly. If you show the audience a gun in the first act, it's got to go off before the end of the third. So we know these cloning facilities have to factor into these plans in some way, because otherwise, why even show them to us? What's the point?
Right. I think it's I love the way Grief reacts to, seeing everything, for the first time, because, he just really had no idea when Mando posed him. He thought it was like just a straight mission. And, Grief was like, he just really had no idea what was here. It was just a great reaction from Carl Weathers. And it's one of those moments where something bigger is going on in the show other than just your straight, missions, episode to episode mission. So it was a really great way to see that we know that the Empire has been, defeated at this point, but they're up to something. There is some underlying stuff going on in the Outer Rim that just the New Republic is just not, being aware of, that they should be paying more attention to. So you defeated the Empire and everything, and it's all down. There's more stuff going on, and they're not going to just sit on their heels. And we'll get further into the episode when we see Moff Gideon, and what he's doing. But I just love like the political ramifications of, you got a group of people who have been defeated but are not down and are just totally being just ignored, in the Outer Rim, and it's evidently just a lot of stuff going on that they should be, the New Republic should be privy to.
I don't know that I felt that they were really defeated. I mean, the Empire seemed pretty well organized. They still had the technology. Everything was up and running. I'll have to say that maybe the stormtroopers were a little haphazard. They weren't
terrible aim. Terrible aim.
There was a little problem there that I've watched the episode maybe 4 or 5 times, and I'm still uncomfortable with how easily our base of heroes dropped that many stormtroopers. I mean, it's too Disney, because Disney would just have the bad guys fall over. But in the original trilogy, I mean, stormtroopers could take a hit. They were elite trained soldiers. They weren't bozos, but these are total knuckleheads. They're
red shirts
walking into each other, and one blaster shot and they're down. It's like, come on. But I think we're not supposed to think that the Empire is necessarily down and out.
Well, I guess we as an audience know that they're not down, but what I'm saying, in universe, aren't they down for the count?
Well, the New Republic is like the legit government now, right? Because so they've sort of filled that vacuum of legitimacy that the Empire left, right? So they're sort of there, and they're operating in areas that even the Empire wasn't bothering to operate, even during their expansion, right? So they're sort of saying, look, there's no reason for the government that to fracture just because the governor will no longer function. And in the imperial remnant, we don't have this because in our society we don't have like political wealth and personal wealth aren't tied together as closely as in ancient societies. So like I think of the emperor as like personal property, right? Like his like estate, so to speak, or a plan or whatever he owns, right? That to me seems to be what is continuing on as sort of like the undercurrent of the First Order, right? That's the spire that's continuing forward after the empire is dead. And I think of it kind of like how like a Justinian, a Roman emperor, right? How they have their own personal property and then but they also have the legitimacy and the authority of the state. That is what has been removed from the empire here. But the wealth, the reach, right? That sort of stuff is still there, just like the emperor was Don Corleone. Gotta watch it.
So they use the family wealth to foster their leadership and whatever they just chose to govern. So I mean that makes sense.
Eventually, what happened is the Roman Empire fractured, and rich people would pay peasants to only work on their land, and so it eventually just fractured into little fiefdoms, right? Which it looks like what's happening here, because that's what Grief's setting up, is his own fiefdom.
Yeah, he's setting up war. He's a warlord.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he alludes that at the end of the episode as far as making this basically the new trade federation and one of the basically trade federation of the Outer Rim, so to speak, as they put it. He's already established Carr as his marshal, and basically he will be the head of the new head of the trade federation, which is really interesting. But to kind of speed this episode along here to get to really the meat and potatoes of the things we really want to discuss, which are just so many ways that we can turn this, is we'll obviously reintroduce the Moff. He's alive and well, although Mando had thought that he had died. So we're reintroduced that he's out there. Just kind of fast forward the episode. They've taken over the Foundry, or the last Empire base, so to speak. And Mando shoots off to go reclaim the child as he thinks that Moff Gideon is going to kidnap him. So kind of getting us to the end of the episode after, they're chased by a couple TIE fighters and, Mando comes on a Razor Crest. It's brand new all of a sudden in 2 days. And, he shoots him down, and we really get to the end of it where all speculation kind of starts. I mean, we see Moff Gideon in some sort of, I thought it was an Easter egg to maybe the operating table when they first unveiled Darth Vader. But we get into the mist-covered room to where we see the experiments going on and the need for blood for something. And Kendo alluded to this a little bit. If these are shock troopers or robotic troopers, I know the last time we saw the shock troopers, as he said, I thought they went down for the being elite. These guys are dropping way too easy. I feel like our heroes aren't taking enough damage, although I guess Den almost did die. I mean, I don't know. The fights are cool, but I like Kendo was alluding to, I would feel a little more damage on the heroes, a little more tough times. I mean, we haven't really reached that roller coaster. We haven't really reached that period, that climax, or anything yet. So it'll be interesting. I mean, I guess episode 5 we're tubbed into. Everybody's setting their recorders for this episode 5 coming up. But Kendo, what did you think about, like you said, even these shock troopers, whatever you want to call them? I mean, do you think they're going to be any stronger, or?
Oh God, I hope so. Put them through basic training again, or something. I mean, every once in a while that one would like take a hit and then take another hit, but they were all dropping. They weren't running in any formation. They were just like running down the hall. They weren't, but only at the end when they were pinned down in the hangar.
Right.
Just as they were going to enter the Imperial troop transport, first introduced in 1978 by Kenner. Where it never evolved, wasn't in any movie, wasn't in any comic book or anything, but here it now is in The Mandalorian. Just as they were about to board that, they did have a group of stormtroopers that came in and really held them down a little bit, pinned them a little bit.
Well, Call of Duty style, flanked them.
Seriously, like two formation, Guys trying to run flank on the enemy. I mean, they were really trying to do something. But other than that, I mean, I really hope that like you said, Trent, we get a sort of a big battle where there's tons of stormtroopers and maybe up against a little pitiful band of heroes, and really see what we can really do. Maybe hell, put in 20 or 30 other Mandalorians, have them jetpack in, but the stormtroopers definitely need to step it up. The Imperial Army definitely needs to step it up a little bit.
I mean, DP, with this being a Disney series, do you think that, as Ken alluded to, I mean, we've heard the jokes about, that, they can't hit the broadside of a barn, they can't hit a bantha. I mean, do you really think that this is just they're going to be the comedic side of Star Wars, that they aren't going to be intelligent and they're not going to be able to? Because clearly, as Kendo was saying, we would see a little more, I would feel, from soldiers, especially keep in mind, we're getting close to that time frame to where now we're alluded to Finn, these aren't just clones, but these are actually stolen children from their families.
Yeah,
clearly,
great.
They're a little more intelligent than we're seeing them. So, you think it's a humor thing, or just is this?
Well, I mean, you bringing up Finn, that's a really great point, because it's a person behind the soldiers, so they can't just, or they shouldn't just be. I shouldn't say can't. They shouldn't just be mindless, soldiers just getting knocked out as soon as you hit them with attack. If they're going to do anything at this point, I would say Disney should just let them be a little bit more creative in their flanking or in their movements, and not just have them just shoot and just just fall down and everything, and let them go past and stuff. It would be a really great way for them to find a way to humanize a stormtrooper, but I know that's not what the show is about. But like I said, get a little bit more creative in their fights, and I think that will go a long way to making us a little bit more satisfied, instead of and like you said, Trent, having our heroes get a little bit more damaged and have a little, get a little bit more roughed up. Just because it's a Disney show doesn't mean that it has to be, just light, totally for kids, because it is adults watching this too, probably more so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
So, Hitch, as far as closing up the episode, clearly we hear that there's been some transponder added to the Razor Crest. To all our chagrin, the team is not together. Mando's going solo again. So, interesting to see that. I don't know if you tied this together, Hitch, but in my mind, so Bo-Katan and their ship is looking for Moff. Moff is chasing Mando. We're all meeting at Ahsoka. This sounds like it's going to get really interesting.
This is the classic, sort of train wreck sort of situation where you have lots of tops spinning all in one direction, and it's all going toward Ahsoka Tano, right? You know what I mean? Like, we're all going to the same place, and that is a rendezvous with a mainline Star Wars character, with the apprentice of a Skywalker, which is a big deal, because the Skywalkers are also in the Yoda tradition, right? This is a big deal to have this sort of animated character show up in real life. It's sort of the crossover a lot of people have been waiting for, and it feels to me like while I know that I'm joking around that they've created this like X-Wing series spin-off and this Marshal of the Town spin-off and the sheriff mining town on Tatooine spin-off and the Frog People spin-off. They have all these spin-offs, but they're all spinning in the same direction, and that's at a conflict around what to do with the child and who's going to end up with control of the child, and how is the child. This is what worries me for the child, right? Because obviously they're not going to kill the child in a plane crash, or it's not going to get coronavirus and die, right? Like, it's not going to be something random, right? That kills that happens to the child. But we know for a fact that this clone program that was just teased to us is successful. It works one way or the other. It works, and if they need high M blood, and they need it to make it work, then we know they're going to get it, because it works. So somebody's donating some high M blood here, or something is different. And like we said before, right? If you cock that pistol, you can't not shoot it. And they cocked it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's alluding to another thing, because they're saying they need to get more from the donor. They don't have the child. Moff is, I guess, semi-force sensitive. Who are they getting it from? So, are we going to see another kidnapped Jedi potentially?
Well, they're going to go after the child. That's what I thought.
But in there, I thought that they had somebody else they're getting it from as well. I didn't know if that was a point that maybe I thought wrong, but I thought they said they had to get more. I don't know if the child's the only donor they're using necessarily to get. Because I know the child has a higher count, but I didn't know if that was the only donor that they're using.
Because he said because of the size, he could only take so much, and he needs more. I don't know who else they would be going after.
Well,
yeah, I got the feeling it was a child as well, but I mean, Trent, right? It might be more than one donor.
let's talk about who could possibly be the end donor, right? Let's say that eventually somebody's going to have to be co-opted into this. I mean, the list is pretty limited because Obi-Wan's dead, Yoda's dead, Darth Vader's dead, Emperor's dead, right? So you got Luke, Leia, Ben, right? Ahsoka, right? We got one more, and that's it so far. The child. So those are that is the universe of possible donors for this project. And if we assume it kills them, Luke, Leia, and Ben are out. So who knows?
It has to be.
So, there's a small list of people that could be involved in this. And again, if they didn't mean to have that be the tie-in, there'd be no reason to show us clone tanks that look exactly like the ones we just saw in Star Wars Episode 9, which I will remind everybody I gave a 7.5, and Kendo gave a 10. Kendo, still thinking it's a 10, or have you revised that yet? Still a 10. All right, we agree. Our ratings have not changed.
Jeez, mine has dropped, and as Kendo would know at the place of work, even DP, mine has dramatically shifted based on this series, based on some evidence. I'm one of those fans that, kind of like Hitch. This Lucas script is out there. If we're getting this Snyder cut, I'm asking the Star Wars lore, can we get the Lucas cut? At least a Colin Trevorrow Episode 9, Duel of Fates. There's so much out there. Like, if they're not going to release a movie, let us read the script.
It is what it is. Once it's printed, you can't take it back.
Just publish it, man. Robert Heinlein would publish it. You know what I mean? If this was, what I'm
saying, just publish.
If this was James S.A. Corey, if this was the Expanse people, they'd publish it. But we have a monolithic corporation, and quite frankly, this is the flag. This is who you want running these flagship things, I think, because they have all the money, and they just basically say, people that know how to make the awesome content, do it. And here's a dump truck of money. They pull it up to their house and they go, here you go. Do it.
One thing about this universe, which is really interesting to me, especially the Star Wars fans, is that you really can't reboot this. The universe is the universe. So basically everything is as is. And right now, the Mandalorian is filling some gaps of stuff. They already threw out everything that happened in the extended universe as far as the books and all the other stuff. So none of that's officially canon anymore.
Could you imagine?
Only thing that's canon is the episodes, and now a lot of people are just like, okay, how does that even happen? Mm-hmm. But if you have to retroactively, if this show is going to retroactively explain some of the reasons why, Palpatine may come back, or Snoke, what happened with Snoke, then hey, have at it, because whatever happened.
Right. And I guess I can lead us into Ken, because I know we've discussed this outside of this channel, on different mediums. This is my problem with this, and I don't want to be negative, but I guess this is the part that I wanted to open up to you guys. It seems like here, season 1 was knocked out of the park. To me, season 2 seems like somebody at LucasArts sat down with Filoni, understood the backlash of the last 3 movies, and this to me seems like it's covering up. And I don't want to have the sound as it's covering up for Abrams. Abrams did a good job. We can talk about episode 8. I don't think that was part of the 3. It was just whatever, but I just feel like they are filling in errors due to the fandom being so separated now, as me and Ken alluded to multiple times. And I just feel like right now, to me, it's starting to seem a little bit like, let's tie this in so it makes 7, 8, 9 feel a little better. Does that you kind of getting those vibes a little bit too, Kendo?
A little bit. I see where you're going. I see where you're going with it. When I'm watching this, and we discussed this outside the show, like where I'm coming from. I watch the movies. I don't anything that was not Lucas done. I don't know about. I mean, basically. So I feel like what they're doing here is they're getting back to that because I think in the newest trilogy, since he wasn't involved, he wasn't doing any of the writing, nothing. It was all Disney. I mean, they took what he started and kind of developed it a little bit, but he didn't have a hand in it. Maybe a text message here and there, hey, what do you think about this? Maybe something like that. But I think Mandalorian is getting back to that original Lucas Western cliffhanger style, Shogun Warrior, all the stuff that he grew up with, what he studied in film school, the stuff that really drove him to want to do these movies. That's what it's getting back to. Now, but I see what you're saying about filling in some holes and gaps and answering some questions and things like that. But I think what they're trying to do is really get back that old fan base and say, hey, you know what? We get it. We dig what Star Wars was, and here's this new universe, but with the old feel, the old feel,
yeah.
Right. And to tie that in, like, one final point hits as far as everything we've discussed today as well is, so even with Kendo saying kind of tying it in, do you feel that we need explanation for that? I mean, I understand what everybody's saying, but to the point that we look at now, we looked at this as the Mandalorian. I didn't, or I don't know if you guys did. I didn't expect us to tie in 7, 8, 9, and I just feel like we're getting those vibes of like I said. I just feel like there's too much filler. Just leave this where we had it, season 1, and in season 2, expand upon that. Now we're essentially taking this, and it's a stopgap into the between 6 and 7. Do you have those kind of vibes yet, or maybe I'm reading too much into it?
I think that it's a storytelling thing because if you think about it, we are in a position where we have a character that to move the story forward, we have to put a character in jeopardy that nobody really wants to, right? Do you really want anything bad to happen to the child? I mean, really, does anybody? No, of course not, right? You don't want it to get like its ear cut off or something. You know what I mean? You don't want it to have scars and look like Tyrion Lannister or whatever. You don't want that. We want the child to do great. We're pro-child at this show, right? So,
yeah.
In order for the story to advance, you have to put the child into jeopardy. And listen, if you are gonna want people to say, all right, get on with it, right? Let's go. We got to have some plot here, right? Now you have buy-in from the audience, and the audience says, we need action now. And look, this is the same thing they do in video games. Everybody that's played a video game knows this when you're just mowing through them now because you know exactly what they're going to do, right? Easy pickings. Give me a new challenge. Give me something new to do. The stormtroopers are easy. It looks like these are all just walkovers. He's knocking over like liquor stores and he's using his actual Mandalorian armor to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's that sort of offset, yeah. and he's powered up now, right? He's got the Beskar, he's got the child, he's got the ship, he's got the guns, he's got everything he needs. So when you level up, you have to have a challenge, and that's what's happening now. So now we know the main conflict of the season is this: all the pieces are in place, everything's set. And for me, if you want to link it together to these other properties, I understand that because in season 1. They did not know this was going to be the flagship property of Star Wars for Disney when they made it, right? They had no idea.
Great point.
And guess what it is now, right? I mean, it is literally the perfect vehicle for Star Wars because they can make it and nobody has to be in the same room. Like, it's insane. Yeah. So you can have Carl Weathers, work on his own schedule, and you can actually continue to produce the show during coronavirus because you don't have to it's not like making Spartacus where you need 30,000 people in one space. You know what I mean? You can just keep going.
If the exclamation point was going to be Star Wars Episode 9 and you left it at that, and you would have had a divided fandom, that was just it. Right. The Mandalorian brought everybody back together, in my eyes. It made everyone say, okay, this is what I love. It made fans like Kendo, This is what I loved about Star Wars, even though I loved Episode 9. This is what I really, loved about Star Wars, is bringing back to the essence, and at the same time, it's bringing the fans that actually liked the sequel, the last sequel trilogy. Okay, yeah, this is Star Wars, and this is smaller Star Wars, but it's still Star Wars. Like I said, if you left the Episode 9 at the exclamation point, I don't think it would have left a bad taste in people's mouths. The Mandalorian first season really created something that was sweet, for you to taste.
Yeah.
Right. And like I said, as we wrap it up, guys, I know we ran along for our fans out there
They
who
love
like
it.
our content,
They
maybe
love
on a
it.
drive, on a ride to work or wherever you may be doing in the car, consuming us on all our multitude of platforms. Hopefully this episode 5, as we're hearing, everybody has their DVR set. If you haven't, you're going to get those Disney Plus, because our year's been up. So I've already renewed on my second year. So let's get those subscriptions back up, even though it's a shameless plug. Shouldn't have to do it, but let's make sure we paid our subscriptions so we can get that episode next Friday. And Hitch, do you guys want to sign us off?
Yeah, just before we jump into all the stuff, I want to say thank you, Trenton. You've done such a great job leading the conversation the last couple of weeks. Thanks so much for coming on and really, really taking control over that. Leading the discussion the right way. Appreciate it very much. You can find us at nerdcyclopedia.com, which is spelled the same way as this channel you're looking at. So I'm not, you know how to spell it. So you should subscribe here. You should definitely head over there for our blog post. There's gonna be new stuff over there. I want to kick it over to DP Brown here. He's going to tell you a little bit about his project and his upcoming stuff. So let me kick it over there. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, DP?
The Theme of Thieves, it will be kickstarting. The Kickstarter is actually postponed, guys. Last week I said it was going to start on the 25th of November. We're actually going to postpone it to the 18th of January. Moving into next year, everything with COVID season is just making things just flow on into next year. So what's one more thing to flow into? So I'm starting my Kickstarter launch for the project January 19th. Got the dates mixed up there. January 19th is when this Kickstarter is going to launch. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a lot of content, coming on this channel. So definitely watch for that, and also go to my channel, DP Dog Pound Brown. And if you want to email me, dpbrown@crazyhouse.com.
There you go. All right, everybody. Well, this has been Carbonite Bounty BS, which is actually still the name of the show. And we're the nerds. Thanks so much for joining us this week. We'll look forward to seeing you later. And like we say every week when we sign off, remember, this is the way.
This is the way.
We'll see you soon. All right, bye.